Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Read and Reread. I am Angelia, and today it's time for Friday Reads on October the 13th. Yes, it's Friday the 13th in October, but that is good luck in my household because my daughter, she loves Friday the 13th. She was actually born on a Thursday the 13th, so she just barely missed it, but she's always been a fan of the number 13 and Friday. Everyone's a fan of Fridays, right? And Friday the 13th, she's actually coming today to spend the weekend with us, so that's extra lucky too. So we are looking forward to that. We have a fun weekend in store. She is bringing something that's a birthday gift for me because we weren't able to get together last weekend. I don't know what it is, but she seems excited about it. And tomorrow we're going to the annual Veg Fest, which is downtown here in Corpus Christi. And that is there's a lot of vendors and uh, demos and different things for vegetarian living. And also there's a solar eclipse, and we're not going to look at it because I did not trust the all these glasses that were being distributed for free in places, and other people were selling them, and they all just look like paper 3D glasses, and I don't have a lot of faith in the official certifications when they all just kind of popped up out of nowhere. So we're going to enjoy the eclipse, like how weird it looks all around and on the ground, and I'm not going to look right up at that thing. It's not going to happen. But that is occurring, and it's kind of funny because there's all these places, and they're having eclipse specials and eclipse beverages and eclipse everything. But that's happening tomorrow. And then also tomorrow night, I have tickets for us to the local theater production of Rocky Horror. I've never seen the play version of it. I've only seen the movie, and my companions haven't seen it at all. So you know what that makes them if you've seen Rocky Horror before. And anyway, so that should be fun. And so all that's coming up this weekend. Let me know what you have going on this weekend too. Anything fun going on? Okay, let's talk about, well, before we talk about the books, let's just briefly touch on TV. I don't have anything really new or interesting to say. We're stuck with shows that are doling out one episode a week. We're still watching the morning show, which is over the top and preposterous, and we're watching the Great British Baking Show, which is wonderful and delightful. We finally finished The Changeling, and if you have seen this show or you have read this book, please send help because I have no idea. I don't understand what happened at all. And in fact, I think it ended on, I don't think it even ended on the ending. I think that they're hoping that there's a season 2, but I don't know. Well, is that going to happen? We may have gotten burned by The Changeling, but we did look up and see how the book ended, and that didn't really help much either. That was pretty weird too. So I don't know. I don't know. If you're familiar with any of this, let me know. Okay, but let's talk about the books. I did finish, when I was on last week, I was right at the end of The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride, and I did finish it. I really liked this book a lot. I was really happy to see that he won the Kirkus Prize for fiction this week. They gave out a fiction, a nonfiction, and a book for young readers awards, and I can't remember who won the other ones, but I was excited that he did win for this novel. And so I talked a lot about it last week, so I won't go back over it, but I did like the way that it ended. I would say that I felt I wanted more about some of the characters, because that's what's really at the heart of this book, is what the characters chose to do, how people overcame different fears and hesitations to reach out beyond their own interests and join together to help someone in their community in need. And certain people got a little bit of ways on a journey of change, and then I want to know what happened to them after the parameters of the story. So, but that I got what I got, right? So I did like the way it ended, and there's an afterword that if you read this book, don't skip the afterword because it explains the person that the book is dedicated to. Cy Friend is explained in the end who he was, his importance in James McBride's life and many other people's lives, and how uh, his personality and spirit inspired him to write this novel. So I don't want to give it all away, but do read the afterword, and it's really lovely. I am continuing with The Way We Live Now by Anthony Trollope, and I've got all these notes and things stuck in it because I'm participating in the Discord for Victober. This is such a fun novel, and I'm so excited to have I've discovered Anthony Trollope. Who knew? So if you have famous favorite Trollope novels that I should consider in the future, I am really enjoying this book, and I would love to read some other of his works. Um, so I'm a little bit past the halfway point. I was kind of cruising along, and I was staying right on the chapters. There's like 3 or 4 chapters a day in the schedule, so and then I could talk without fear of spoilage, even though there is a spoiler section. So if you feel like you're going to talk about something ahead in the book, you can go into the spoilers. But anyway, when I got sick, I had a few days where I didn't leave, I didn't go anywhere, and I just sat around and read. So I got way ahead. And so now it's just kind of unbridled. I'm just reading however many chapters I feel like. I'm really loving it for the characters. I realize that I am most of the time just a very attracted to character-driven novels. And the plot is good, but the characters are so interesting. Even the bad ones, the good ones, and a lot of people are in the gray area in between. You start to root for them to maybe kind of get a clue and improve and mature, but you don't know if it's going to happen. The women are really interesting to me, trying to assert themselves within the confines of the laws and rules and expectations of the time period. So I'm having a great deal of fun with this book. Also, in the Victober vein, this week I read Agnes Grey by Anne Bronte. This is a book that I've been wanting to read for some time, after having enjoyed The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. And I don't think I had started this when I was talking last week, but this is about a young woman named Agnes Grey who she's the daughter of a clergyman. She lives happily with her sister and her 2 parents, and then a unfortunate financial mishap occurs that plunges them into I wouldn't say despair, as far as, I mean, it's pretty bad, but it's not complete ruin. But her father just falls into a big depression because of a mistake that he has made. And so the 2 young women are trying to think of a way to bring some money into the family within the limited choices of a Victorian woman. And these are very young women. Agnes is the younger one, and she's 18, so her sister's a little bit older. And her sister has some artistic talent, so she begins to sell some paintings and drawings. And Agnes decides to apply to become a governess somewhere. And she imagines that that she is ready for this. She's been educated at home by her own mother. She's never been out in the world. She's never been away to a school. But she figures she has all these basic skills, and how hard could it be? And if you have ever taught, it's very hard indeed, and especially under the circumstances of being a live-in governess who's never left home, who's 18, and has to go out and navigate amongst some rather, let's just say she gets a couple of real Lulus of jobs. And so as far as Victober, this fits so perfectly into Roz's prompt about class, because there's so much in here where she is observing the wealthy members of the country's society, and then the way that they perceive her and the other employed people of the household. She has a lot to observe and say about members of the clergy in this. There's kind of a good pastor, bad pastor situation that arises, and also has a lot to say about teaching and your interactions with children and their parents. And It also fits into, I forgot whose challenge it is. I'll have to check. I'll put a note up on the screen. But one of the hosts challenges to read a book that's in first person, which this is as well. There was a little passage that struck me early on as a former educator on the topic of having to deal with a difficult child when their parents don't support you or cooperate. And this is what Agnes says: a more arduous task than anyone can imagine who has not felt something like the misery of being charged with the care and direction of a set of mischievous, turbulent rebels whom his utmost exertions cannot bind to their duty, while at the same time he is responsible for their conduct to a higher power, who exacts from him what cannot be achieved without the aid of the superior's more potent authority, which either from indolence or the fear of becoming unpopular with the said rebellious gang, the latter refuses to give. I can conceive few situations more harassing than that, wherein, however you may long for success, however you may labor to fulfill your duty, your efforts are baffled and set at naught by those beneath you, and unjustly censured and misjudged by those above. So, if you've ever had a problem with a parent or an administrator, Agnes Grey is speaking to you straight from the heart of the 19th century. The first house that she goes to work for, I mean, these folks are sociopaths. I think that Emily snuck in and wrote these characters because these people are way out there, especially this one little boy. If you put a kid in a book like that today who is just this creepy, lying little gaslighty monster who likes to torment animals, it would be a horror novel. He'd be a baby serial killer. But it's a different kind of story in this book. But I will give you a trigger warning about animal cruelty, that in this first job that she takes, it's pretty bad. And she is quite appalled at what she discovers going on at this household. She later gets another job that's challenging in different ways. And I don't want to say too much more about it because it's not a long book anyway. But she's going through those years of 18 to about 22 during the course of this novel. So she is actually growing up while she is working in these jobs. And she works with first a set of younger children and then a set of teenage girls. And those are two very different situations. And anyway, there's a lot to appreciate. It's a quieter novel. Some of the aspects of the actual plot are not terribly surprising. You can kind of see where some things are heading, but it's fine. It has a satisfying ending, and Agnes's personality can be a little aggravating. If you have read The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, you know that there is, I guess it's coming straight from Anne Bronte, but there is a certain little preachy streak that comes up where basically I think that the author's religious and spiritual views are suddenly, everything just kind of stops and there's a little sermon. So that happens from time to time. But I think that she does contextualize it pretty well to explain Agnes's choices of behavior. She's a pretty quiet and passive person. She thinks a lot of things that she decides not to say. That's kind of her overall outlook on life, is to try to take the high road. And it does serve her well in the end. But so that is definitely an aspect in here as well. But I enjoyed it a lot. It's not thrilling and full of melodramatic things like Jane Eyre, which I love, and it is not as strong or as unusual and unconventional in the plot as The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, but it is an enjoyable work in its own right. And then the weirdest, most delightful and delicious book of the week was We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I don't know where I've been all my life to miss this fabulous dash of nasty oddity, and I loved this little book. It is a very slim book. It would be great for Shorty September. It would be great for spooky season. It would be great because it's great. Everyone else has probably read this, but let me just kind of lay it out a little bit. It is narrated by a young woman who tells us that at the beginning that she is 18, named Mary Catherine, and called Mary Cat by her sister Constance. And Mary Cat does not come across like an 18-year-old. She comes across more like a 12-year-old. And we find out very early on in the book that here's the living situation. Mary Cat and her older sister Constance and their elderly, infirm uncle Julian live in a house, and they used to have an entire family, but everybody mysteriously died 6 years ago in a incident that has left them very unpopular in the town. Mary Cat goes out to town twice a week to exchange books at the library and to pick up groceries, and she is met with mostly either side eyes, rude remarks, outright bullying. Everybody is suspicious or hostile to Mary Cat, and we don't know why for a goodly while, but we start to get a hint. And she's the only person who leaves. Constance never leaves the property. Uncle Julian is confined to a wheelchair and also seems to be experiencing dementia. But something happened 6 years ago, and everybody in the rest of the extended family is dead. And as the story unfolds, we find out that Mary Cat is, I don't know what, a psychologist would diagnose this as, but she lives within some very particular constructs. When she goes on this little trip to the village at the very beginning of the book, she feels angry about the attitudes of the townspeople, and she wishes them all dead. She imagines herself walking through town over their dead bodies, and she but you kind of latch on to her. It's a wonderfully constructed book because she's very strange. She has violent thoughts. She's full of magical worlds. Not world. Well, there is a magical world. Because she pretends that she lives on the moon, but magical words, mysterious. If she buries things in certain places, if she nails things to trees, if she follows the rules of what to touch and rooms not to go into, then everything will work out just fine. Constance, her sister, works within this system, and she's sort of a cheerful housekeeper girl who doesn't seem to acknowledge how weird their life and their living style is, and she's just in the kitchen cooking and doing chores around the house, and all this is kind of working until their cousin Charles arrives, and he disrupts the status quo. We as readers aren't sure why he's there at first, although he seems to be pretty preoccupied with the value of things in the house and whether there's any money in there, and the eerie setting that has been created becomes increasingly menacing. And somehow through this all, we are, or at least I am, seriously team Mary Cat during all of these goings on, and have an instant dislike of Charles. I don't want to say anything else about it because it's such a short book, and the building suspense is just really so much fun. It is not a supernatural book. It is a psychological horror, and the only thing I've ever read by Shirley Jackson is The Lottery, which everybody read in school. And so I'm really glad I took time to read this. And now I'm wondering, I should probably read The Haunting of Hill House, right? Because if I loved We Have Always Lived in the Castle. But this was just, I wasn't sure what to expect. I knew many people loved this book, and I was just instantly absorbed. I could not put this book down. It was just so good and just perfect for October. And I don't need something really outrageous and bloody and monsters and all that for my October joy. This was just perfect. So that's where I'm at. We'll have less time this weekend because of the things we're going to be doing. So I might just stick with just continue reading the Trollope. I do have a couple of books on the horizon to pick up next. I'll just show you real fast, but I don't know which ones I'm going to start right away. I have Tales of the City, which is for a reading, what is that thing called? The Queer TBR Tackle. I did get this from the library, and so I need to make time to read that. I have Cranford, which I just love and have read before, but I want to read it for Victober. And then I was at the library picking up some books, and I randomly lucked into Beware the Woman, which is a new novel by Megan Abbott, which would be another great October read. I do like reading Megan Abbott from time to time. It's usually kind of a whacked out, bonkers kind of thrill ride, unhinged thrillers or mysteries. And this one, it appears that there is a couple, and there's a young couple. The woman is pregnant. They're going on a weekend trip to visit his parents. And it starts out pretty well. She likes the parents. There's a weird housekeeper, which makes me think of Rebecca for some reason. Well, I know what reason, but and then it says their Edenic first days take a turn when JC has a health scare. Vacation activities are scrapped. All eyes are on JC's condition. Suddenly, whispers about Jed's long-dead mother and complicated family history seem to eerily impinge upon the present, and JC begins to feel trapped in the cottage, her every move surveilled, her body under the looking glass. But are her fears founded, or is it simply paranoia or cabin fever, or, as is suggested to her, a stubborn refusal to take necessary precautions? The dense woods surrounding the cottage are full of dangers, but are the greater ones inside? Okay, so we have pregnancy, body horror, isolated cabin, mysterious in-laws. It has much potential to be great fun or absurdly terrible. We shall see. Has anybody read it? So that's it. That's what I have going. What have you been reading this week that you really loved? How's your Victober or your spooky season or any other October challenges going for you? I'm going to wrap it up here, but I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll be back on Tuesday to do that Victorian reading journey tag. So I'll see you then. Bye-bye.